space, making sure that nothing is causing pain or discomfort, as in joint pain. Muscular discomfort, entirely up to you. If you need to stop and have a little stretch, stop and stretch. If you can keep it going for as long as you want, as long as you can. Use your props, a band if you've got one, if you don't, a belt, a towel, strap, anything will do. And then again, a ball if you have, or if you don't have one, you can use a cushion or a rolled up towel, just creating a little bit of a resistance, a little bit more of a reach. If you're sitting, see if you can try and find a space at the front. So as usual, I want to be able to use my diaphragm, my big breathing muscle, as much to its full capacity. So if I'm slouching forward, everything is compressed and the diaphragm doesn't have space to move. So it can't really work as it should. So the tendency is to start breathing apically, breathing from up to the top of the chest, which is not a relaxed breath. So see if I can straighten myself up as much as I can, encourage space at the front of the belly, so that as I'm breathing, I can keep the breath down into the belly. So it's a nice relaxed belly breath. I don't need to breathe into the top of the chest, into the collarbones, into the neck. If you're laying down, just allowing the mat to carry your weight, the arms to relax by the side, the legs can be bent or straight. Again, feeling that abdomen raising and falling with the breath. So it's nice and soft, nice relaxed breath. And then as you keep that soft breath going, just running a quick scan over the body. Notice the pressure. So if I'm laying down, trying to compare the pressure between your right and your left shoulder, your right and the left hip. If you're seated, comparing the pressure between your right and your left seat bone. Is it the same? Am I sitting maybe a little bit more on the left or a little bit more on the right? Is my back straight? Is my head in the center? Is it slightly off to one side? Just noticing where everything is and how you feel to begin with. Is there any pain? Is there any tightness, any discomfort anywhere? And then as you feel that the body feels that little bit more settled, the breath feels that little bit more relaxed, then to start focusing on the neck. I'm going to start turning the head from side to side. So it's just trying to gradually ease off with some of the tension from the neck. Comparing right and left to turn. I feel that I can turn easy one way. It feels a little bit stiffer the other way. I'm not forcing any of them. I'm just trying to create an even movement. If you're lying down, there is no chance that the shoulders are going to move. They're resting on the floor, they're resting on the mat. If you're seated up, then the shoulders might start following you around. So with the corner of your eye, check that the shoulder is not going anywhere. It's the head that is moving on top. So the shoulder girdle is keeping still. It's just the head that is moving side to side. 4. 3. 2. 1. And easing back, returning the head back to the middle. And then I'm going to focus on the shoulder girdle and thoracic spine. Reaching the arms to the front, clasping the hands together or keeping the hands apart, whichever is easier. I'm going to start turning the rib cage. So I'm going to swing the arms around one way and then come round and then swing the other way. So encouraging a little rotation from side to side. So if I'm seated, see if I can use the space. So there is nothing behind me, so I can really reach around one side and reach around the other. Noticing the movement right into the middle of the rib cage, right into the middle of the back, a nice stretch that crosses over the shoulders as I'm turning from side to side. If you're lying down, exactly the same. Just think of rolling over onto one shoulder, then coming back and then rolling over to the other side. If my hands are together, I can create a little pull, a little traction on the arm that is coming across the chest. So I can feel a little bit more stretch at the back of the shoulder. Turning the head to follow the arms around so that the neck doesn't stiffen up. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back. Returning the arms back to the middle, adjusting the shoulders. And then I'm going to work down into the lower back. So if you're lying down, again, take advantage of the freedom around the hips and the pelvis. I'm going to bring the feet and the knees nice and close together. Let the arms open out a little bit wider to counterbalance. And then together I'm going to start rolling the hips gently from side to side, massaging across the back of the pelvis and into the lower back. If you're seated, there's less freedom as the hips are sitting on the chair, so they can't move that much. So I'm just going to see if I'm reaching the arm across to the leg. I can pull the legs across. So encouraging a little stretch, a little twist down the side of the hip and across to the back. Pushing the legs the opposite way, turning the shoulders away. Turning the legs the opposite way, turning the shoulders the opposite side. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. And releasing back, releasing the shoulders, again adjusting the hips, is a little bit more movement through the all of the spine. I'm going to change the direction of the movement slightly. So going back onto the neck, at this time, instead of a rotation, I'm going to go into a little lateral flexion. So if you're seated, imagine to be sitting with your back and your head against the wall. So I'm going to keep the head against the wall, and then I'm just going to try and bring my right ear down to my right shoulder. If you're lying down, you might want to kind of like give the head a little support with a hand, and then just gently try to bring the right ear towards the right shoulder, easing it back to the center, and then left ear to the left side. Right to right, coming back, left to left. Feeling a gentle stretch coming down the side of the neck, making sure that the stretch is not causing pain or any kind of like shooting pain down the arms or tingling into the fingers. Notice the position of the head. If the neck is tight, the tendency is to want to turn the head slightly. See if you can try and look straight forward, straight ahead. Just dropping the shoulder down, twisted ear, and then down the other way. 6. 5. 4. 4, 3, 2, last time, and easing back to the middle, returning the head to its starting position, and then focusing on, again, the thoracic spine. So I'm going to go into a lateral flexion, this time taking the rib cage side to side with me. So again, if I'm seated, imagine to be sitting with the back against the wall. I'm going to slide it down one side, easing my way back to the middle, and then slide it down the other way. If you're lying down, support the head this time. So I support the head with my right hand, and then with the left arm, I'm going to reach down the side of the body, taking the rib cage to the side with me. Then easing back to the middle, switching the left hand to the head, and then with the right arm, I'm going to reach down the right side, flexing to the right. Coming back, and then switching over. Coming back, and the other way. So if you're whether you're lying down or sitting up, I should be able to feel a nice tension coming down the side of the belly. So the obliques are tensing to create that little pull down the side. So feel your ribs, your rib cage moving closer to your hips. So I'm going to shorten one side of the waist and then lengthen the other. Shorten one side of the waist and lengthen the other. So I'm happy here, I'm just going to stay here. If you're seated and you want to make that stretch just a little bit stronger, then see if you can try and reach the arm over. So see if I can create a little bit more space between the ribs, a little bit more stretch down the side of the waist. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, adjusting the shoulders, bringing the shoulders, the rib cage back to the middle, and then focusing on the lower back. I'm going to try and get the same flexion side to side, but working from the hips up. So I'm going to start hitching the hip up towards the rib cage instead. So I'm going to hitch up on the right side, then ease back, and then hitch up on the left. So if I'm seated, imagine to be walking your seat bone up and down on the chair. So I'm going to try and pull up on the right, sit back on it, pull up on the left, sit back on it. So again, I can feel the side of the belly tensing to create that little lift. If you're lying down, the back of the pelvis, the back of the hips are staying on the nice and flat against the floor. Imagine your hips are like a little pendulum swinging from side to side. So I'm going to try and hitch up on the left, the hips are swing to the left, hitch up on the right, the hips are swing slightly to the right. So releasing any tension down the lower back, noticing difference between the right and left side. I might find that the hitching on one side feels easier than the other. Is normal. The obliques are slightly different, right and left side. So it's not unusual to feel that one side is really strong and the other side doesn't feel the same. 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Returning the hips, returning the pelvis all the way back to the middle. And then I'm going to change the direction of the movement one more time. So I've got a little rotation, I've got a little lateral flexion, I'm going to work into a little extension and forward flexion. So starting with the back of the neck, and starting with the cervical spine, I'm going to start off with a little skull rocker. So if you're on the mat, think of pressing the chin down into your throat as if you're trying to flatten the back of your neck down against the floor. Then I'm going to ease back, I'm going to lift the chin up and towards the ceiling, I'm going to open up the front of the throat, tilt the head back, and then I'm going to try again. So the head is staying on the floor, I'm just tipping it forward and back and to try and ease the tension along the back of the neck and your stomach. If you're seated, think of tucking the chin in, so as if I'm going to give myself a double chin. I'm going to push it back, see if you can feel that length at the back of the neck, and then I'm going to ease it forward, lift it up, and again I'm going to tuck it in, and then reverse it. So imagine in turns, I'm trying to lengthen and lift into the back of the neck, and then I'm going to try and lengthen and lift into the front of the throat. So lengthen and lift into the back of the neck, and then lengthen and lift into the front of the throat. 3. 2. Last one. And release it back. Again, adjusting the position of the head. And then I'm going to repeat the same, but this time I'm going to focus on the upper back. So if you're seated, you don't need to support the head as the head is already on top of the shoulder. If you're lying down, you're going to wrap your hands around the back of the head and then tucking the chin to the chest. You're going to try and curl forward. Think of the back of the rib cage round in as much as you can. Then I'm going to ease my way back and then pushing the shoulders back, the chest forward, to see if I can try and extend as much as possible. So I'm going to flex, I'm going to try and round it as much as I can, and then I'm going to try and extend as much as possible. So trying to create the biggest movement you possibly can into the upper back. Flexion, extension, flexion, extension. As you go into flexion, imagine your rib cage, the front of your chest, kind of like wrapping into a ball. And then as you go into extension, imagine the ball to be behind you. I'm going to wrap myself around the ball the other way. So I'm going to try and wrap myself forward into the ball, and then I'm just going to try and extend myself back into that imaginary ball. So think of that shape, that rounded shape. 5, 4, 3, 2, last time. And releasing back, adjusting the shoulders, adjusting the back, and then working down into the lower back. So see if you can think of the same movement that you did for the neck. I'm going to do it for the lower back. I'm going to, if I'm seated, I'm going to tilt the pelvis back. I'm going to roll from the seat bone back onto my tailbone, tilting the pelvis back as if my back was against the wall. I'm trying to flatten my lower back into the wall behind me. And then I'm going to bring myself back into neutral. So I'm going to tilt back and then rock forward back into neutral. Tilt back and then rock forward back into neutral. So same as you did for the hip hinge. See if I can try and loosen up the bottom of the spine, the lower back. If you're laying down, even easier as you've got the floor, the mat to guide you. As you're tilting back, you want to feel the lower back getting closer, flatter against the mat. And then as you tilt forward, you're going to go back into neutral. So you're going to tilt back and then forward. Just gently massaging the lower back and the back of the hips. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one, and releasing back. Easing the hips back to the middle, adjusting the hips, adjusting the back. So spine is a little bit warmer. I'm going to start working on the shoulder joint. I'm going to allow the arms to come down by the side, and then I'm going to start off with the front raise. So I'm going to lift one arm up to the front. I'm going to reach it up, reach it back as far as I can, and then returning the arm back by the side. I'm going to reach with the other arm. So if you're lying down, you're working with gravity, so it's easy enough to move the arm unless there is any restriction or discomfort in the shoulder. So making sure that you're not forcing the movement if the shoulder doesn't feel right, it feels painful. If you're seated, you're working against the gravity, so the arm feels heavier. So as I lift it, aim for the bigger lift possible, but think of the easiest lift possible as well. So making sure that I'm not lifting so high that I feel that my neck has to stiffen, all of my body has to tighten up. So if I can feel that tension, I'm going to make my lift a little bit smaller. So making sure that I'm not creating tension into the neck, I'm not creating tension into the shoulders. I'm just trying to release the shoulder joint, just encouraging as much movement as possible, but making sure that it's a relaxed movement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. I'm going to allow the shoulders a little rest, and then I'm going to work through the hips. First thing, I want to make sure that my hip flexors, deep into the hip joint, are awake. So I'm going to use the ball if you're lying down, so you don't need to strain to reach there. Place the ball between your hand or your hands and your right thigh. If you're seated, you can still use the ball or the cushion, but because you're much closer to the leg, you can use your hands directly onto the legs. So whatever you prefer. Laying down, the leg is a little bit further, so if I use my hands, I will have to tense through the shoulder. If I put the ball in there, it just makes the shoulders a little bit more relaxed. So what I'm going to do is to push into the ball with the hands and with the legs. So I'm going to try and lift the leg into the ball and then push away with the arms at the same time. So the leg is not actually doing anything, it's not lifting or lowering, it's just tensing and releasing. So see if you can be aware of the tension. I can feel the belly and I can feel the hip on that side. So the front of the hip trying to grip, trying to tighten, to try and lift against the pressure of the hands. So with the hands push away, with the legs I'm going to try and pull in, pull up. So see if I can find that connection all the way up onto that right hip, right side. 5, 4, 3, 2, And then last one, I want you to hold that pressure. So I'm going to try and pull up with the leg, push down with the arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and release. Relaxing the leg, relaxing the belly. Now focus on that right leg. I want the leg to now lift up. So there is no resistance from the arms. So the leg should be able to come up slightly. I might not be able to lift the foot off the ground, but I can feel a little bit more connection into that front of the hip. So see if I can focus on that connection. Picturing the thigh bone moving up towards the rib cage, the hip flexing, the belly tension to help me stabilize that lift. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing the hip, relaxing the leg. Same thing with the left side. So I'm going to place my hands or the ball against the left thigh, and then I'm going to start squeezing with both. With the hands, I'm going to push away. With the leg, I'm going to try and lift. So same as before. See if I can find that tension. See if I can find the connection deep into the hip joint. So feeling the muscles in there tightening, working against the pressure of the hands. The front of the belly working to help me stabilize that pressure. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then last one, we're going to hold that tension. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and release. Relaxing the hip, pushing the ball to one side, and then same as you did on the right side. Think of that right leg, that left leg now coming up. 1. Same as on the first side. I might not be able to lift the foot completely off the ground. See if I can still focus on the hip joint. So I want my hip to close. I want my thigh to move towards my chest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing the hip, releasing the leg, allowing the hips to have a little rest, and then focusing on the shoulder again. This time I'm going to go for a little lateral raise. So instead of taking the arm up to the front, I'm going to swing the arm around the side and up towards the head. Then taking that arm back and then swinging around the other arm and then bringing it towards the head and then down again. Same as usual. Play with the angle of the shoulder. As if I feel that the shoulder is a bit sore, I might come forward with a slightly shallower arc. If the shoulder is okay, I'm going to go into a nice wide arc around the side. It might click, so it might not be painful, but every time that I move the arm within a certain range, the shoulders tend to click. So if that's the case, as usual, play with the position of the hand, changing the hand position even slightly. It might might give you a better fit between the top of the humerus, the top of the arm and the shoulder socket. So you might actually be able to get rid of that clicking noise every time. So see if I can play with the position and then see if I can find a combination that allows the movement to get a little bit smoother. So getting rid of that click. 4, 3, 2, 1 more time on each side. And releasing back, relaxing the shoulders, releasing through the arms or through the back. And then I'm going to move back into the hips, into the legs. First thing, I want to create a little bit more connection through the inner thighs. So I'm going to set the ball or the pillow, the towel between the knees. I'm going to walk the feet nice and close together. So whether I'm seated or lying down, it doesn't matter. And then I want you to focus on squeezing into the ball as hard as you can. So I'm going to press into the ball as if I was trying to pop it. And then I'm just going to ease that tension. I'm going to squeeze it hard and then ease that tension. Now, as you squeeze and release, I think of the intention be more on the inside of the leg this time. And then always compare right and left side, as this time I'm squeezing both at the same time. Then compare it right and left. You might find that one side seems to be working harder than the other. So one side is really squeezing, the other side is struggling a little bit. Focus on the struggling side. See if you can encourage a little bit more tension or a little bit more connection on that side. And same as usual, if I find that the leg feels a little bit lost, it doesn't really know what I wanted to do, then I'm just going to use the hand to guide it. So I'm just going to use the hand to encourage the leg to press in, and then I'm just going to release. Use the hand to guide the leg, and then release. And it might be one leg, it might be both. So using both hands if I need to. 4, 3, 2. Last one, I want you to squeeze and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Squeeze a little bit harder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Squeeze a little bit more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing the legs, releasing the inner thigh. I can feel a little bit more connection through the inside of the leg. What I want is now to find a connection into the side of the hip more. So I'm going to do the opposite. So if you've got a band, you can use the band. If you've got a strap, you can use the strap as well. If you're using the strap, we'll keep it slightly loose, so you've got a little bit of a play with the legs inside of the loop. If I don't have the strap, or if I don't have the band and the strap doesn't feel that comfortable, then I'm just going to provide the resistance using the hands. So instead of having the band around the legs that is pulling my legs in, I'm just going to use my hands. I'm going to squeeze in with the hands and then push out with the legs. Then release, squeeze in with the hands, push out with the legs. So these times, if you can think of the effort coming from the side of the hip or from the side of the bum more. If you're laying down, you've got the option to turn into clown. So instead of staying on your back, trying to get the band sorted there, you can just roll onto one side, and then keeping the knees bent, you can work your clamshell on one side. So turning and lifting the leg and then easing it back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then easing back. If you're on your side, I want you to turn to face the other way. So setting yourself on the other leg, and then we're going to do the other side. If you're seated, then this time, see if you can walk the feet just a little bit further out. So the knees are in, the feet are slightly out. And then from there, see if you can push out to just a little bit more. And then I'm just going to try and control it back. 2, 3. Again, using the hands to guide the legs if I need to. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And releasing back. Relaxing the hips and doing the band if you're using the band around the leg. If you're lying down on your side, I want you to roll over onto the back and then going back onto the shoulders one more time. This time, see if you can try and get the brain work with the body. So working with a little bit of coordination. Think of the two movements that we practice separately. So the front raise where the arm goes up to the front, and the lateral raise where the arm goes out to the side. With my right arm, I'm going to go for a front raise, so lifting it to the front. With my left arm, I'm going to go for a lateral raise. So I'm going to open it to the side. Then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to switch. With the left, I'm going to go to the front. With the right, I'm going to open to the side. So focus on the arm. What you want is to be able to see one arm clearly in front of you, while the other arm is kind of like somewhere around the side, working around the side and then coming back. So one is clearly to the front, and then one I can just about to see wave into the side. And then I'm going to switch again. So little movement, a big movement, the same as for 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing down. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. If you're laying down, rolling over onto your side, and in your own time, pushing yourself back up into sitting. Finding your comfortable seated position. So same as usual, opening, crossing the legs, kneeling, whatever works for the hips. Leaning against something solid to give support, or just using the arms behind to offer that little support to hold yourself up. And then same as we did at the beginning, see if I can think of space at the front of the body. But this time I'm going to try and exaggerate the space, really open it up. So I'm going to start lifting up from the front of the rib cage. I'm going to push the chest forward. I'm going to flip the shoulders back and down. I'm going to look forward. I'm going to look up. I'm going to look back. And then release it, letting the chin drop down to the chest, with the shoulders come forward. I'm going to roll my way down, and then coming up again. I'm curling back, the shoulders back, the chest is forward, looking up, looking back. And then releasing, coming forward and rolling down. Last time. Lifting up as high as you can, coming up through the front of the chest, drop the shoulders at the back, look forward, look up, look back. And then releasing back to the front. One hand to the belly, one hand to the back. Take your back. Give yourself a little down.